Liberty Nation. Truth is making a comeback.
Well, hi again. This is Tim Donner with LNTV, the death penalty. It's been a big issue for a long time, though we have not heard much about it lately. But that has changed, and joining us to discuss how is LibertyNation.com legal affairs editor Scott Cosenza. So, Scott, what was the pronouncement this week by California Governor Gavin Newsom, and how significant is it?
I can't sign my name to that.
Well, the governor, Tim, essentially has said that he will refuse to sign any death warrants moving forward. So it essentially eliminates the death penalty in California for as long as he's governor, because it's incumbent upon the state to actually have somebody, the chief executive, sign that death warrant. So basically it ends the death penalty unless and until a new governor comes in who is willing to sign death warrants for prisoners on death row.
Well, California is the largest state in the nation. Many people there think of themselves as their own nation, in fact. It's an outlier, really, in the union, the most liberal state by most accounts. Is there any indication that Governor Newsom's decision will lead to other governors or states following suit?
You know, the thing I think that's interesting about California, Tim, before I give you a direct answer to your question, is that it hadn't already been banned. There are 20 states which have banned the death penalty, and they're not just all the most liberal states that you might think of. I think one of the Dakotas is in there, West Virginia. So not exactly, the sort of the hardest of the left, or the leftmost states. In fact, California is probably one of our leftmost states, and until now, they have actually had the death penalty. And in fact, in California, as recently, I think, as 2 years ago, they struck down or voted down a referendum to ban it. So there's still a lot of popular support in California for the death penalty. So I don't see this, Tim, as necessarily leading to a wave, sort of a political wave. But I think for liberty's sake, that would be a benefit. Anytime the state is putting to death somebody, we know that human beings make mistakes. And I think the cautious route for liberty and for human life is to put the brakes on state killing. So I think this is a good thing. But unfortunately, I don't see it as a wave that other governors are likely to emulate at this time.
Now, Scott, this might seem a bit superficial, but the issue of the death penalty is not anywhere on the list of important issues among Americans. Why should we really be interested in it?
Tim, when the state takes someone's life, they're doing everything to remove any potential for that person to have any enjoyment in their life or any liberty. It's the most extreme thing that the state can do, and we have to protect and guard against it. And too often, we see cases where people who are put to death have had wildly inconsistent notions of justice applied to their cases with respect to how they were treated. And they're often the very poorest and least intelligent among us. And we know that there are strong cases. We can't say for sure, like to a scientific fact, that there have been innocent people that have been executed in the United States. But if we look at the numbers and we look at the stories of the people who have been executed, I think a fair reading of that almost surely says that we have executed innocent people. And human beings make mistakes. Whether those human beings are prosecutors or police officers, we need to infer no ill will towards the fact that they may execute an innocent man. It may be an innocent mistake, but they are human beings, and because once you kill somebody, you take away everything they've ever had and everything they're going to have. I think it's incumbent upon us to make doubly sure, but there is no such thing as making doubly sure. So then the only reasonable answer is don't kill people.
Now, death penalty advocates have always asserted the argument that the death penalty is a deterrent to the kind of crime that would be penalized by the death penalty, or in states where they don't have it, life in prison. Where do you fall on the argument that the death penalty is a deterrent, and how, in fact, can you actually determine whether it is or not?
Well, it is a problem for criminology to say whether it is or it isn't. And the best sort of scholarship I've seen on this is that it does present an impossible solution in terms of sort of like, not to put another contentious issue into the mix, but it's like global warming, Tim, where it's like somebody says, well, this causes that. Well, where's the causality here? Same thing with the death penalty. There can be societies with death penalties that are strictly applied that have lower violence rates, but there are also societies that have no death penalty that are much more peaceful. So I think that if we look at the history of some of the worst offenders who we would want to, sort of protect against with the death penalty, if you look at their lives, they don't seem to be lives where there's much contemplation and forethought given. They seem to be lives filled with chaos and abuse. And it just seems doubtful to me that they're likely to be able to respond to incentives the way that somebody who's sort of more well-adjusted might. So that's how I come down on it.
Thank you, Scott.
Thanks, Tim.
That's Scott Cosenza, LibertyNation.com legal affairs editor, also in charge of all things illegal, as I like to say. And remember to like and subscribe to the LibertyNation.com YouTube channel. I'm Tim Donner. Thanks for joining us.